Hey, y'all, welcome back to another episode of Kelvis Podcast. Listen, for the first time on Kelvis Podcast, I got an active duty member, not only just an active duty member, but a first sergeant, Ashley McIntyre, in the studio with me today. I am truly blessed being a prior service member, retired myself. I am super excited to have her in here and just have a conversation. So, without further ado, Miss Ashley, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, as you said, my name is Ashley McIntyre. I am 38 years old. I have 3 children. I'm a minister, an assistant pastor, actually.
Okay.
I'm active duty in the military, like you said.
Yes.
And I'm a first sergeant. This is my second gig doing it now.
Okay. So, what's been your experience here? Because 82nd can run you raggedy. I know.
Yeah.
I mean, once they get their paws on you, as you said, you've been here for a little while. I think you stationed in Fort Carson for a while, and then you. I don't remember the other duty station, but I know you've been here for a little bit of time.
Yes.
And I know once they get their claws on you, they don't like to let you go
Yeah,
nowhere.
that's right.
They'll move you around from position to position to hold on to you. So tell me, and I was talking to you a little bit out there, and we were just getting to know each other. Tell me, how has it been balancing being a first son or being an active duty member and raising a family at the same time? And I didn't know you was a assistant minister until now. So, wow. So how do you balance all that? God, work, kids, country.
Yeah. When I think about it, when you say it, it seems like it's a lot.
Right.
But I think mostly it's kind of simple because I decided to put God 1st. When I actually rededicated my life, I say I wasn't an E5. I mean, wasn't a sergeant promoted, but I was an E5 at the time.
Okay.
Because I feel like it was more of a pay grade for me then. But when I actually took the time and effort to rededicate my life and put the Lord first in everything that
Right.
I started doing, it just kind of like he gave me that strength to keep pushing going
Right.
forward. It's been tough though. I'm not gonna lie. Like it's tough, but having those boundaries and set, that's important to
Right.
do that. Leading children, doing that. But also too, my dad had experience in the military.
Right.
And one of the things that I didn't like when he was in, because he was an officer, it was a little different time frame, obviously, then
Right,
too.
true.
Doing it is that some of the things, the milestones and things that he missed simply for deployment or different things that were going on. So I had no plan to join the military before. I despised it. Got
can
my
imagine.
undergrad. Yeah,
Yeah.
I got my undergrad and I played basketball and almost went to the Utah Jazz female team.
What?
Yeah, but then I just I started working, had a job because
Yeah.
I did an extra semester. But then the economy was bad like it is right now. And so I joined the Army. And then I was like, well, maybe I'll get my master's. And then I had my oldest son. And then I just kind of stayed, especially when I started getting promoted. And then some of the things that I experienced, it made me want to stay because I didn't want some people to experience some of the things that I experienced.
Okay.
And I felt like it was important to be able to show people, to plant those seeds and hope somebody else water it. No, I can't change the Army,
Right,
but I
true.
can change my area and leave an imprint somewhere so that way the Army does get better. And then people who do serve, if my kids decide they want to join, at least it might be somebody that's better.
Right. Wow. So what position? Let's go back because I'm totally shocked here about the basketball. So what position did you play in basketball?
So I played power forward for the most part in high school, and
Okay.
then I went to a JUCO first because I wanted to play.
Right.
So they wanted to switch my position to small forward, but I wasn't comfortable with that. So I
Okay.
played at JUCO, and I actually got my associates from there. And then I transferred to Columbia College, which is all
Okay.
women's college, and I played there. And I got to play small forward and power forward, but I got to alternate to play.
Wow. And so when we were talking about you spoke that, you told me your father had been in the military and that experience of moving around and that type of thing. So by your father being in there, you actually had planned on coming in the military.
No, not at all, sir. Not at all. I didn't have it because I just felt like, for me, mentally, what I saw was that Dad had always go to work, some of those things. But yeah, he made the effort to be there, like for the birthdays and things.
Right.
But I remember those lunches where I wanted my father there. I've always been a daddy's girl, kind of.
Right.
I wanted him there for those luncheons, not
Right,
just my
that's true.
mom, like kind of mixing it up a little bit. So that's why I never really cared for the military, didn't know about the rank structure. I didn't know any of that. So I was that person, like kind of like naive. This one, mentally, all I knew was this thing was impeding my dad from being where I needed him to
I
be.
understand. Yeah, been in the military myself for 20-some years, and been away from my family. You miss a lot of birthdays, you miss
Absolutely.
holidays, you miss Mother's Day. I'm a mama's boy. To the heart, I'm a mama's boy, and so just missing those holidays. So I can relate to it. But I came from a family of military, so I knew when I graduated, by the grace of God,
Yeah.
I said the military. My mom said, "Yeah, you need to go on in the military."
Yeah.
Matter of fact, when I graduated, she had my bags packed, sitting on the porch. Said, "Hey, go on, son, and
Yeah.
do what you got to do." And so I didn't myself. At one point, I thought about getting out of the military, because I had experienced some things. I was in Fort Carson,
Yeah.
and we were speaking about some of the things that you experienced. And I told you
Absolutely.
the same thing.
Yeah.
Some racism in the military, and I was planning on getting out, and I was going to go work in the federal prison system.
Oh, wow.
But I always been a person like money, so they was like, "Hey, we give you Germany, and we're gonna give you I think I got like $15,000 bonus, right?" So I said, "Man, I thought about it then." I said, "Yeah, I can do that. I can take that money."
Yeah.
So that money kind of changed, but it was God's divine plan for my life anyway.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so I'm glad I stayed in there and made a career out of it. With the challenges, it's like we both had talked about. There's been challenges along the way. So, speaking of that, what are some of the experience or moments that you can share with us that have been most impactful in your career?
I think honestly, me being in the IG, that actually, when I got selected for that, that was really a blessing for me because it was like where I got to help everybody.
Right.
It wasn't a particular rank or anything like that, or structure. I could help anybody that I wanted to help if they came in office, but doing the due diligence and know that I was making a difference. And then also being a first sergeant, I think because it was never in my career path to be a first sergeant. Usually we run the brigade at 6 and do those
Right.
things.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, I get to do this. And it just caught me off guard because I was going through so much personally at the same time. But to be able to pour into people and be transparent and talk about my story, I think that's what made it most rewarding, honestly, and the biggest impact.
And the funny thing about it, when RJ sent me your bio, I highlighted that because I wanted to talk about your experience in IG and just your personal experience in life and how you just said how you was able to what you was going through in life and then be able to transpose that into helping soldier, you know what I'm saying? Be able to guide them better based on what you're going through. Because sometimes that's healing for us too, that we are in a position, even though we are going through things, we're able to be in a position to help people. And I think that's commendable. So, and then you say you was a shark, right? You went through that course. In your experience, have you ever had to put that training into effect professionally and even in your personal life?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Actually, in the Army, multiple times still now as the first sergeant, because we've had transfers come in different things, capacity like that, being I'm the only one that's tracking the situation. Sometimes the commander's tracking, but usually it's mostly me to make sure the personnel, they're moved right or who they're around to communicate that. And also, too, me as a teenager, I went through some things that kind of put me in a situation, but I've still been blessed and I'm here, still moving forward.
So how important, because the mental health month, how in this is, I'm trying to phrase it right. I'm going to take my glasses off because I want to phrase it right. Because I was just talking to somebody this morning and RJ talked about medicine and the therapy of your religion, your relationship with God. They go hand in hand because
Absolutely.
I have had conversation with people and I asked them, I said, well, how have you dealt with mental health? Have you been through counseling? And they had told me, and I can't knock anybody's relationship with God because, you know what I'm saying, I'm not here to judge anybody's relationship with God.
Absolutely.
They say God brought them through. And I know I have testimonies that God had brought me through some things. But I didn't learn anything about mental health personally until I came back from Iraq the first time. Even I've been to Kosovo, Romania, and all these so-called peacekeeping missions. I've seen a lot of things during those times that you wouldn't think you would see on a peacekeeping mission. So I didn't know I was dealing with stuff that from that and from my childhood until I came back from Iraq. And I'll tell anybody, I'm just being transparent. Me, when I first came back, we redeployed. I went through that little, you go through the SRP, the redeployment, and they ask you the question. I was like, I know I'm good because I want to drink.
Well,
I want to
go and leave. Yeah.
I want to go and leave.
Yeah.
That's 90% of the soldiers. They want to go and leave. So we lie about the assessment, and thank God that my first sergeant we had a very good relationship. But I was at the bar at 9:00 in the morning drinking. I wouldn't even come to work.
Yeah.
I was a sergeant first class, E6 promoted, but I wouldn't even come to work. And I had 30-some soldiers that I was supposed to be in charge of. But I was so messed up from what I was going through.
Yeah.
My first marriage was going through things, and alcohol was my therapy.
Yeah.
And so when I went to finally got, he said, hey, listen, we got to put you in therapy. I was in therapy for a couple of months. My commander came into the session, said, hey, you got 40-some soldiers. We just got orders. Get ready to deploy. In the middle of a counseling session, I was at Fort Lewis, Washington, Walmart, sitting in a counseling session. He just busted in the door. Hey, get stuff. You got 40. Matter of fact, you got 50 soldiers, and you're going to take them back to combat, and you will bring them back.
Oh, man.
So when you say that, and I thought that, and I looked at like I said, the IG, and I looked at, we talked about, mental health is so important because a lot of times we don't want to get it, especially in our race. I looked at the statistics, and Blacks and Hispanic are the lowest population, because I had somebody pull the stats for me today because I wanted to talk about this on this podcast. We have the lowest, I think Hispanics were like 6%, African Americans at 13%, Caucasian at 61% that seek mental health outside in just ordinary people. And that's a very low percentage compared to the other races. Even Asian have a higher percentage than we do. Yeah. We and Hispanics had the lowest percentage. And so, it just, I think that people say that, well, I don't need help. And they don't realize they're suppressing a lot of things we went through in childhood.
Yeah, definitely.
And so what do you think about all that?
So I've been to counseling before. My parents were married for 22 years and they ended up getting divorced. That's how I ended up in South Carolina. I started counseling then for a little bit.
Right.
And then I started counseling a little bit later when I went through some things, my teenage years. But then when I really started counseling for real, was like maybe in 2022. As being in the first sergeant seat and then going through everything in my personal life, going through the divorce and just the challenge and the changes. And I had a surgery and it was like so much. And then I had a commander that didn't see things differently, but it's like you can't prove stuff and kind of saying like the same stuff you deal with. It's the microaggressions and kind of things going with. Yeah. So I had him for 122 days. So I was blessed. I got through that. But I was the 5th first sergeant he had in 2 years. So that's big. That speaks right there.
That speaks volume.
So I started going when I actually we had a first sergeant commanders like kind of briefing with our new behavioral health specialist. And I was like, oh, I like her. So it was just like, she was just like raw, straight to the point and understanding. It was like, yeah, you need help too. And so then I signed up to go see her. And I was like, well, look, if I can't be telling these soldiers to go see, if I'm not going to go. Right. And so then it started with me going twice a week. And then I started going once a week, then once a month. And then I went yesterday. So now I go once a month. I go on a regular, but it's helped me peel back layers of the onion that I didn't know from childhood, from abandonment, different things that I didn't know. And I say this often is that, man, sometimes, especially in our culture, that we are taught to be strong, that we suppress things. True. But you get to a point where you're burnt out, and being burnt out, this is why we have issues where people think that we're just angry. No, we're projecting because we have so much going on. Yeah. And then people will say, well, in my day, this, but it's not your day. I'm trying to break this mode. I don't want to do it by myself. Just because I can do it, I shouldn't have to do it. Right. Why do I have to? And I had a breakdown like recently. My son is a freshman. Right. And he wanted to go to the prom. So they go to a private school. And I was like, okay, cool. And then it hit me. Why do I got to be the one to tie my son's tie? Yeah, I can YouTube it, but I shouldn't have to do this. Right. So then I started using my community. And one of my soldiers, he actually tied. He was like, first time I got it too easy. Yeah. So it's just like a community that you build, but you got to lean on people. But sometimes we are just taught to be so strong that we don't want to lean. And that's the hardest thing, is to ask for help. But the funny thing is that we help everybody else.
That's true. And I think from speaking from a man's point of view, it's our ego. It's funny because I talked to my boss today. He's a pastor at a church here in Fayetteville. And I asked him a question about, something that I wanted his opinion. And he told me, he said he had a couple not long ago stop him in the parking lot and say, hey, we need some counseling. Mm-hmm. He said, I can easily, because his degree is in mental ministry counseling. Okay. He said, I can easily, go to the Bible, pull the Bible verses, and counsel you on the biblical side. He said, but I always tell people you need to get some personal counseling. Absolutely. Too. You need to go to someone that's they feel, that's what they went to school for. They got years of experience. Yes, and it's a combination, and it made me think. As RJ said, you got to bring God and the people that He has blessed with the knowledge to also help you, because somebody brought to him, one of his disciples was a doctor. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And somebody brought to my attention this morning because it kind of bothered me, because I'm big on mental health. Yeah. And when I talk to people about mental health, a lot of people, I don't have no problem. Or somebody told me this morning, they said, well, I'm scared to get mental health because I'm afraid that they're going to tell me the truth about me. that when I start talking to them about my past, they're gonna tell me the truth, and I don't want to hear the truth. So I'd rather not go counseling. And to me, for me, I don't understand that, because if you know you have issues, you walking around with these issues, and it's affecting. I did a podcast a couple of years ago, and I'm talking about when you leave one house, if you was dirty in this house, you take the same baggage.
You're going to be dirty in this house.
It's going to dirty up a new house.
Yeah.
So you go from relationships, and I ask women all the time, what is your process? Because if you've been through relationship, and you feel like you don't need no counseling, how do you think you're going to have a productive relationship with anybody, and you still holding on suppressing things that you've been through from a child, to the relationship, to divorces? You have to sit down and talk to someone, spiritually and on a professional level, to get that, to help you cope with those things. Find ways that you can cope with those and deal with those issues, so you don't project those issues in another relationship or on your kids.
Yeah, that's right.
In your job.
Yeah.
It affects every aspect of our life. And
it does.
People does not. A lot of people, I feel like, don't understand that. So I commend you for saying that, because, man, that what you said is so powerful. So powerful. Actually, it's very powerful. So let's move on, because, man, you got me excited, because a lot of people, they really don't want to talk about mental health, and it's so much that we can unpack with that. Let's reflect on your journey, though.
Okay.
You spent time in Germany. You came back to the States, went to school. What year did you have your first child?
2009.
2009 was that's your son, right?
That's my son. He's 14.
14, and the baby is 4. So, and boy or girl?
The oldest is a boy and the youngest is a boy. And my daughter is the middle one. She's 11.
So how's it having? You got 2 boys and a girl. Which ones are most clingy? Which one clean to mama, the boys or the girl?
The boys do, but my youngest one, I promise you, his love language is physical touch.
Right.
Like always,
he want hugs,
always kisses, everything. He's all like a koala bear. That's what I call him. Yeah.
I like koala bears too, because I got fat cheeks. So, I can talk about myself. I got fat cheeks that I say I look like a little chipmunk. So 3 kids, 2 boys, 1 girl. The baby, he loves to hug mama, give mama kisses. So what is it like having a freshman in school?
Look, I look at my youngest, and I think I'm just like, man, I can't believe you were this small. Like my oldest, it's like, and I'm like, man, he just grown up by my eyes. Right. But he's 6'3". He's 14 and 6'3". Yeah. So when I really realized it was, I looked at him, I was like, hey man, when I talk to you, sit down now. You sit down, because I'm only 5'9", but looking at him like, it's different. It's definitely different. But I'm raising him differently. I know that obviously I can't do it by myself, right? I can't teach him how to be a man. Right. But I'm raising him differently, like doing different things. Even with all my children, there's no gender roles kind of doing it, but you need to be able to survive for yourself. True. So be able to cook for yourself, to be able to do your laundry, different things. Right. And I know that some people think that's different, but we have those tough conversations too. Right. And I talk to them about like, what can I do differently to help? That's our Sunday roundabout thing, kind of. Okay. What can we do better as a family? What do we mess up on this week? What can we do better? How are we going to get better? Right. And we started that in 2022, and I think that's made a difference. Oh yeah, I like that. That is something I think a lot of people should be able to implement that, because as parents, there's no perfect parents, you know what I'm saying? And I can say, being raised primarily by my mom, my great-grandmama, and them, my father died where he wasn't really in the picture. I always say that a woman can't raise a man. Yeah, no, I agree. I definitely agree. Because there's certain things that a man can teach a man that a woman can't teach. And just like a man can't raise it, he can teach. My mama taught me she projected on me what she felt like a man should be. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? And vice versa. If I had a girl, I would be like, okay, this is how a woman should be. But, you can instill those qualities in, but still you need that woman to woman. You need that man-to-man type of also relationship. You need to combine. Absolutely. I agree. It takes both of them. I know for my son, my oldest, my dad has like been that figure. My dad, even though he lives in Virginia, he's retired now for the 2nd time, but I see him at least once a month. He comes down here. My grandmother, his mom used to live here. She passed away Thanksgiving last year. Oh, my condolences to your family. Thank you. But I feel like just those conversations are a little differently. Mm-hmm. But then obviously with the church too, that helps. So my son recently is the pallbearer now for my pastor. So armor bearer, armor bearer. Yeah. I didn't mean to say armor bearer. Yeah. So he's doing that, but he's taking his charge seriously. Yeah, so that's good. And I think the small things make a big difference. Yeah. But I really realized it last year. He was just having a rough time, like with different things. And I think when we finally moved and doing different things, he was like, Mom, I'm supposed to be the man. First of all, let's be clear. You're not the man in this house. You might be the oldest man in this house, but you ain't the man in this house. But I think that's what really made me have that conversation, is that's what we were used to.
Right.
I say, you're not the man in this house. You're not my husband. You are my child. But it's some things you can do, like take that trash out.
Right.
Some of those things like that.
But I think that's natural for, a young teenager and as a man. That I think that's kind of instilled us to gravitate into those roles. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Because I think even as a little child, I've talked about this on my podcast, where I'm from in the country, little girls they had their little cooking sets.
Yeah.
And us boys would go off work. We had our dump trucks. We did
Absolutely,
construction.
yeah,
And we would
yeah.
come home and
Yeah.
the girls had their baby dolls and we had a full family. So even in our blueprint, that's kind of instilled. At least in my generation, that was kind of instilled. Okay, the man go off and work. He make the money, and the women, they're home taking care of the cooking. And I'm not saying that's the role as a grown folks, but it was just kind of that's a part of who we are and how we came up. At least in my community, and it takes a village to raise kids. I mean,
definitely.
It takes a village because growing up for me, I used to get 3 whoopings for the same thing. I got beat at school. I got beat if somebody caught me in the neighborhood. My grandma beat me, then my mom. Sometimes I get 4 whoopings. You know what I'm saying, for the same thing.
So this for old and new.
Yeah.
Look.
So it's different now. I can say that it's definitely in. Wow, it is so much different, especially when you have young men going into adult years or teenage years. I guess the word to say, and then you got your baby, and then you got a young daughter growing up too. It's definitely a challenge in this world that I say it's different because we didn't face some of the same challenges that they face now growing up.
Especially with social media and things like that.
Yeah. So what advice would you give a female soldier that's in the military that watches my podcast, maybe an E4, E3, all the way up to whatever rank? What advice would you give them as far as career progression and just your knowledge and what you've been through? What would you give? What kind of advice would you give them?
I think the biggest thing is finding a mentor. So I would say have a male and female mentor. I think that's important. Somebody, but you choose who you want to choose. I think that's the difference. That's very important. I think the stigma comes with a lot of times, even with minorities, that when you see a female in the military, they're harder on females. That's not necessarily true. Everybody is not like that. But I think that comes with because we've been through so much already, and is that you're trying to fix things so they don't have to receive the same kind of treatment that you kind of went through. But that's the biggest thing I would say. But also speak up for yourself. Like know that you belong at the table. Right. That you bring something to the table, and your knowledge, like you have to communicate, because there's no such thing as a bad idea. But it's important to still stand on business when you're doing what you have to do, and be educated. Right. Be educated. That's something that no one can take away from you.
Right. That's true.
Yeah.
And you got to use tact.
Tact, yeah. Oh, look, I always say, man, it's you can have a great message, but how you deliver it matters. Yeah. I feel like that's the tone. And so what I've learned from me, what works for me, I'm loud, I'm boisterous, and I have a strong voice already. Right. So when I get frustrated, I kind of get lower because it forces people to listen. Right. So they're like, oh, first time mad. No, we're going to figure this out, but this is where we at. Right. But it's something different. But if they hear me yell, then they know something's wrong, because I think I yelled twice since I've been a first sergeant. Really? That's it. Other than that, no. But like I'm kind of calm, believe it or not, like kind of calm. And that's what they call me. They call me the gummy bear, the cool first sergeant. Look, they say she too cool. That's what it's just. I feel like it's a time and a place for everything. Right.
Man, and I think that applies even in personal. I tell people all the time. I just did a podcast with Felicia, and she's a comedian and stuff. And I told her at my age, at 50 now. Yeah. I ain't trying to tolerate nobody talking crazy.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? I tell people it's how you deliver the message and the atmosphere. You got to set the atmosphere for order for somebody. Yeah. You see, when you go to church, you got to worship in your worship service. You got to worship in the spirit of God. So when the people are ready, when you get up to give them the message, they're already the spirit of God.
Absolutely.
Is already
there. Look, you gotta mess with that soil. Look, you gotta mix that soil a little bit.
So I tell people all the time, it's all about communication. Communication is the key. And how you go about it. Because,
I totally agree. And I think that's the difference. When I learned, like I said, being with a bunch of males, like I was a 25 uniform, like doing the combat arms stuff. I was with them. I was radio, retrans. That was me before females were in these MOSs. Right. And I think you kind of stick to that mode because you're like, man, I gotta fit in, I gotta do this. But now when I really rededicated myself to the Lord, and I say when I became a staff sergeant, when I was at my best, and from going from there, I feel like just the communication is what's important.
So let me see how I'm gonna phrase this question. So as a female, and you know, we already identify you've dealt with some post-traumatic stress and stuff like that. How do you combine the two? Because we were just talking about your spiritual journey, you rededicated your life to God, and that. How do you balance those two? With you go to counseling, but how do you balance those two between the professional and your spiritual well-being?
I think the biggest thing is that understanding that I really feel like the Lord gave the doctors their wisdom, right? Because they wouldn't be here.
That's right.
So kind of balancing that to communicate and having somebody to listen and kind of just understand that, pulling things out that I can pray about, obviously, too. And now when I walk in the room, I'm me. I'm not three different people. Like one person when I'm at work, when I come home, it's what you see is what you get. If you just see me on the weekend, it's the same person. If you see me on Sunday, I'm the same person. If you see me Monday through Friday at work, I'm the same person. Like even in my office, like it has my scriptures up. It has my different things.
Right.
And I'm just proud of who I am. 10 years ago, I probably wouldn't have been like that. It's like a thing, but I'm free to be who I am. And I think just unapologetically, that's just who I am.
Yeah,
so
you got to be that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that it sets the tone for different people when they come around you.
Right.
Sometimes people get quiet, but they know they be like, first time, I'm sorry. It's a respect thing though, kind of. And I'm not judging anybody because I was once there too. But sometimes I break it down. I said, do you know, I'm a statistics person, right? Yeah. So I broke it down. I was like, it's about 13 words of profanity that you can use. But the average person has at least 18,000 words of their vocabulary when they graduate high school. And that's either with a diploma or a GED. But every year, even if you're reading the magazines, not going to college or anything else, you're reading the news on social media, you gain 1,000 words in your vocabulary. So then when you start thinking about how old you are, so do I really need to use these 12 words to describe exactly what I feel?
That's amazing.
So,
I didn't know that in myself.
Yeah, but when you hit it like that differently, it just brings it out. I'm like, man, it's so many words I can characterize to say exactly what I'm feeling, express what I'm feeling.
Yeah, wow, that's powerful right there because I didn't even, and I do my research too when it comes to statistics. Yeah. Wow. Okay. That is that's incredible. I didn't know that, so I learned something new myself from you today. So how long have you? Well, let me back up. Let me ask this question because we kind of tapped it, but I want to bring it. I want to kind of go back to it. So if you had to talk to the audience about or a young soldier, a young female soldier, no matter what their race is in the military, about relationships and what you've been through, what advice would you give them? I mean, you've been married, and obviously you say you've been divorced, and the things you've been through. What kind of advice would you give them?
I think the biggest thing, like even now when I talk to young soldiers, is to take your time. Take your time. Make sure. I really don't use the word equally yoked to them, just trying to get to understand, but make sure you experience who you are first. Right. Identify who you are first, and then don't rush anything, and just kind of trust the process. Date, enjoy life. Life is gonna happen. Right. And understand that you're not perfect, but as you continue and navigate, make sure you have somebody that understands you and is willing to be with you regardless of the situation, and not just because of the Army. Like, let it be after the Army. So don't let the Army be the only thing that you have in common. Okay.
So you're assistant pastor at your church, right?
I am, yes, sir.
So how do you go forward now with divorce and in dating? How's that process going to look for you? What's going to be the process for you? So, if you don't mind me asking, because I'm curious.
So I'm going to be honest with you. So at first, I thought I wasn't really open. I was already a minister. I was ordained in 2021. Okay. In March. And so then when I started going through my divorce, like I was kind of worried because, in the church, like kind of where I grew up, they take you out. They be like, oh, we don't want this. Right. But so then it shocked me because I was doing Bible study, and I started doing Bible study every Wednesday. And I was doing it during COVID too, before I was ordained. And so then my pastor was like, hey, you gonna be the assistant pastor? I was like, hold up now, look. I like, man, I'm not, man. Like, I'm going through a divorce, right. Like I was like, he was like, what that mean? He said, we all have a testimony, and we just started talking about it, and man, kind of like it's just it is what it is. Like kind of, and so then God led me to testify about it because I was very select because when I go to church, I'm like, this is where people know, but they don't know. And like, they know what I tell them I want them to know.
Right.
Kind of. But then like I was doing Bible study one night. Next thing you know, I was testifying what I was going through. And I was just explaining like, nobody is perfect. Just because you see me handle things well doesn't mean that I'm not feeling things.
That's it.
So with the dating part, I think the difference, like, so it's been a while. Like I just chilled, like going through, you know, obviously healing. Like this was the first time I really took the time to learn who I was again. Like being comfortable in who I am, being confident in who I am, like for more than just what I look like kind of thing over again, like kind of re-loving myself just with different things. Understand, hey, I'm gonna gain a little weight, you know, different things, but being comfortable who I am. So now it's a little different, I think, with dating because my dad's a pastor too, so we talked about this.
Okay.
So he was just like, hey, you don't want to just be dating, you know, kind of. And I was like, yeah, I'm very select now, kind of just taking it day by day, you know, and doing it like that. And I think that's the best thing, but that's just communicating what journey I'm on. That's the biggest thing. Like, this is where I'm at, and if you're not on that journey, then that's not it.
Wow. That's amazing because this is a different world out here now.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah. So even with I think you know, so we said social media can be bad, right? But I think that's where I think I reached my soldiers the most on TikTok.
Okay.
So what I like about TikTok is that you know how they have the different things you can put with it.
Right.
So a lot of my soldiers that I didn't know, some on TikTok, I wasn't hiding it, but that was part of my healing too, like just some of the things. But then it made soldiers come and talk to me about it. But then also, if you see my TikTok, you already know where I stand and who I am.
Right.
And I'm just not settling. I'm not doing that no more. I just feel like a lot of things that I didn't speak up about, I'm not doing that no more. That's a part of my healing part. It's tough. I ain't gonna lie. Because like some things, like I'm just kind of mellow going with the flow. And it's weird because being at work, it's different for me.
Right.
And that's what my therapist told me. She was like, you don't like conflict in your personal life because you do that at work. You take the hits that people don't see as a first sergeant, as a senior NCO before then. So you want just peace.
At home.
So it's like when you have a situation where you feel like it's about to go left, as we would say, it's like you like, nah, I retreat because I just want peace kind of.
Right. Yeah, I can understand that piece, man. You can't put
peace.
a price.
That thing
you can't put a
priceless,
price. You can't put no price on that.
Listen.
Boy, what you talking about, man? I'm. Lord knows I know about that. Trying to find that piece because it can be hard. It definitely can be hard. So with that said, let me ask you this question here. Because So when I started my podcast, I'm gonna put context what I'm about to ask you. When I started my podcast, I was going through some personal issues myself in my life and dealing with family issues, my wife and stuff like that. And I felt like there wasn't a voice out there for men. You know, you look at movies and books, and it's, you know, what women go through, their journey, they self-healing. I didn't even know what self-healing even really meant, right? And so I started a podcast because of that. So, and it took me a while. It took me some years of going through some things, personal things, to understand what unconditional love means.
Oh, man.
So I always ask people, with your military career, with your personal life, with your ministry, what do unconditional love means to you? In your own words.
In my own words, like I just really feel like, man, when you love somebody, you're gonna be there regardless, through the thick and thin, through everything. And I just think about like, I don't know, like it shouldn't be a moment where you feel like your whole world can be gone, or it shouldn't be a moment where you feel like if it's something that you say or communicate, how you communicate it, that it can be done. It should feel like, regardless of what's going on, through the good, bad, and the ugly, that person's going to be there.
Okay.
Like, it's going to be tough times. Like, that's a part of it. You're two different people. You come with different views. You come with different baggage.
Yes.
You come with different things like that you don't even know that you have until somebody triggers it. And that's the kind of part of talking through it. But I think the biggest part is unconditional love means you fight the problem, not each other.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. And I look at unconditional love. I had to learn this the hard way. Unconditional love has nothing to do with physical. It has nothing to do with the monetary, money.
None of that.
None of that. When I love you unconditionally, I love you for everything about you.
Yes.
You are not doing anything for me that great, but my love for you is that great.
Absolutely. I like that. I like that. Yeah.
So I had to learn that the hard way. I had to grow within myself and my, within my relationship with God. And I'm still growing. I tell people all the time, I say I'm half hood, half saved. Because if you catch me wrong, you might get that hood part. But I'm gonna pray afterwards because my mother's a pastor. My mother's been preaching for 30-some years. She's an elder, so I'm one of them good kids, one of them good pastor sons. Amen. Yes, for the audience, I'm good. All right. Yeah, but so I had to learn that myself the hard way, and I think that life just throws so many things at you.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You have to have a strong relationship in your faith, whatever that may be, denomination or whatever the case might be. So, yeah, man, I'm just super excited to have you. You know what I'm saying? I ain't even get all my questions out because I'm just so happy to have an active duty member, because I can relate to a lot of things. We was talking about being a first sergeant at HHB or HAC, trying to get all those commandos and
getting
those
them
other
riled
master
up.
sergeant, E7s, all those people on the brigade or battalion staff to come do weigh in or do PT or whatever it is. It's hard to get them all in because everybody feel like they're important at staff level. You know what I'm saying? And
but I can't lie. I think and that's one of the reasons why my brigade sergeant major said he chose me is that just the way, because when I talk to people, I've always been like that. Simple. I'm like, good morning. Look, that's how we start the day. Good morning. We don't just start barking orders like good morning. And I think that's the difference. Now, like I do say that we have different units and different locations. So, but for the most part, I kind of do it where I give you options. Like these are the days that are available. One of these days, I need you here. Right. But like you said, it's all about the delivery. Right. And you attract more bees with honey. So I'm just kind of open, but I'm straightforward, kind of doing that. And this, what you see is what you get. And I think that's something that they kind of respect differently. Mm-hmm. So now getting the PT formation thing a little different. But hey, long as we ain't got no PT failures, we getting there, we there. Yeah. Hey, we doing better. Look, hey, each and every day we doing better.
So what's your plan? They fail.
So we have now we have this thing called holistic fitness to health. So it's H2F program. So we have a program actually at the brigade. So they have a program to do it instead of do like the special conditioning PT. We don't have that anymore.
I'm old school.
Yeah, we used to be remedial, then it changed to special conditioning. We don't have that now. So we actually have people that help them get healthy again to fix them. So if you're on profile or that part, but now with the new PT test, you get 4 months between to take another one. So that's a long time to be on that PT. If you like, look, nobody trying to do that.
Man. It's been many years, many moves for me. So I'm kind of out of touch.
You see, I said I know them different names, so I had to make sure I say the right name.
Yeah. Because I told you when you came in the Army, I think I was at Fort Bliss, Texas. I was an instructor at the CRAM school there, at 6th Brigade Air Defense. I was an instructor when you came in the Army. And you came in the Army. I said, man, she fast tracked. She came in 2008, already first sergeant. So when's your first look for a sergeant major?
So technically, I got looked at last year, but I wasn't supposed to because they switched the MILPO to a new access system. Right, I know. So it was supposed to be, because I got promoted in November, but it was supposed to go October and back. So I did get looked at technically, but I've already just submitted my board packet now recently. So every year now it's the same, like because the OML numbers is different than the sequence number. Right. So every year you get reshuffled until it happens.
And plus you got to have a position to go into.
Absolutely, that's the tough part. So they're not doing. They are doing like they changed the name to it, but I still call it frocking to be honest. Like with certain things, but putting you in the positions, but then also that it's not enough people. So it kind of goes back and forth. Now they making us all the same in October for signal, so you just don't know.
Right. Yeah. Because when I seen 25 uniform, I said, man, I haven't seen that in a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Because I know signal went through a major transformation of MOS combined. Just like a lot of other branches. And like right now, you got a lot of the CAV leaving or being forced into other MOSs. They're focusing more on field artillery and air defense assets at the brigade, at 82nd Airborne, at the division brigade level. Or actually at the division level, I just read some information about it. So it's always a change in the forces and how they structure in the military. It's a constant change, to say the least.
Absolutely.
But listen, I thank you so much for coming on the Kelvis Podcast. And so before you leave, I want you to depart my audience with some words of wisdom before we get out of there. Yeah.
Well, first, thank you for having me.
Definitely.
Definitely, it's been a pleasure. But if I had to give some words of wisdom, the biggest thing I would say is be true to who you are, understand who you are, but actually find it and make sure you get some help. Mental health is very important. And I think that's the difference that we all need so that we can unpack that baggage. But if you don't know that you have issues to unpack, you're going to have those failed relationships over and over, friendships, different things in our family. But it's not to target our family or different things, but we have to make the change. You be the change. You be the change, and that's what's important. When you become the change, people change around you.
But thank you so much for coming
Absolutely.
on board. I love you. I love your energy. And we definitely going to keep in contact. I got a new book get ready to come out, drop next month, and we're going to have some events. We're going to definitely invite you back to come back and join us. It's going to be kind of like a private, people that I had on my podcast this year to come back and celebrate my second book coming out.
Okay.
And we will get you one of my books that I already written, signed and autograph. They're coming in. We gave the last one. Last person got the last one. But definitely, and I thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you
For your service.
And thank you for your service and your support.
All right, got it. For more contents like this, like, share, and follow Kelvis Podcast. And with that, I say, peace.